प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
विघ्न विनाशक सिद्धि विनायक
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
विद्यादायक बुद्धि प्रदायक
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
मूषिक वाहन पाहि गजानन
प्रथम शरण गणनायका
गणानान्त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगाद् विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्य माना त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदथे सुवीर्यम् ऋषिर्भवति देवे त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वत्र विनो न मेधे मेधां महीन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सा मां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषत स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा बिन्वमाना सा मां मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्तां मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मय्यग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात् Om Sri Sai Ram. I offer our loving and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our most beloved Lord, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Baba. I'm indeed greatly blessed and privileged today to invite all of you for this 12th episode of Gama Agama lecture series organized under Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni of Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. Today we are indeed blessed to have amidst us to share with us from his vast knowledge and experiences a very long-standing and ardent devotee, Sri Ghandikota Aryama Garu, to address us on the topic, the Vedas, the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality, part 12. Few words as introductory remarks about Sri Aryama Garu. Sri Ghandikota Aryama Garu belongs to the great lineage of Vedic scholars of Ghandikota family who have been uniquely blessed to be the ardent devotees of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Baba for 4 generations since late 1950s. His grandfather, Sri Brahma Shri Ghandikota Subramanya Shastri Garu was a great Vedic scholar of par excellence and the Rishi who perceived the Sathya Sai Gayatri mantra while he was standing for darshan in Whitefield campus. His father, Sri Ghandikota Subbarao Garu, was an eminent economist and also a Vedic scholar who went to New York for pursuing a joint MA PhD in economics from Columbia University in 1949 and joined the nascent world body United Nations Secretariat in New York in 1954 as Economics Affairs Officer. Sri Aryama Garu and his mother, Srimati Lakshmi Devi Garu, joined the father in 1952. The Ghandikota family first met Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba in 1960s during his divine visit to Rajmandri. The Upanayanam of Sri Aryama Garu was conducted by Swami in 1963. Sri Aryama Garu is a consulting engineer by background. He studied at United Nations International School and holds a bachelor degree in electrical engineering from New York University. He worked on electrical, computer, telecom, simulation systems for more than 40 years and traveled extensively worldwide. He has been very closely associated with the Sathya Sai Seva organization for very long time and has been serving in several different capacities. To mention a few, he was the advisor for the service center in Howell, New Jersey. He was also the study circle coordinator for the center Howell in New Jersey. He has given several talks in Sai centers and in multi-faith meeting halls. He was closely associated with Sathya Sai Seva organization for several years and even now he is very currently active. And he has rich amount of experience. One very important point which we need to note here is he is one of the very blessed and rare persons who has been born in a Vedic family and he migrated to United States just after independence. And despite being that he lived a Vedic life all along in his house, and that is very much reflected the way they have been closely associated with the Swami in various capacities. So we are uniquely blessed to listen to this ardent, pious devotee, Sri Ghandikota Aryama Garu. So we once again thankful to our blessed speaker for consenting to share his vast wealth of knowledge on this fantastic topic on this satsang. Sai Ram, over to Sri Ghandikota Aryama Garu. Sai Ram.
श्रुतं मे गोपाय
Sai Ram, my name is Ghandikota Aryama, and I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be invited to speak on the Vedas. And well, I have a slideshow, so I will start sharing the screen. Do I have time to? Am I enabled to share the screen? I don't see a share screen. Can you see the slide? Thank you. So humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Yuga Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Varu. So he has been the guiding beacon of the Ghandikota family for over 60 years. And our great-grandfather, Brahmashri Lakshmi Narayana Dikshital Garu, had 8 daughters, but no sons to carry on the Yajurvedic responsibility that the family had been carrying on for many years, for generations, in fact. He knew the 4 Vedas, the Vedartha, and the 6 Shastras, and was a realized yogi. He performed the Putra Kameshti Yaga, and a son was born in 1896. He had 8 daughters, but no sons, and it was an obligation of the family to carry on the tradition. So by the means of this Putra Kameshti Yaga, the young man in the photo was born in 1896. This is our grandfather, Brahmashri Ghandikota Subramanian Shastri Garu, the Rishi of the Sai Gayatri. So this is an example of the power of the Vedic mantras that we have had in the family for many years. And this is another picture of Ghandikota Subramanian Shastri Garu, who was the Rishi of the Sathya Sai Gayatri. And this Gayatri is Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. And this was gifted to our grandfather during Christmas Eve 1977. And I'll begin the talk on the Vedas. All of these slides are from various discourses and documents by Swami. So these are Swami's authentic words. And we'll start with the Why I Incarnate. This was from 1968, his discourse on the birthday of 1968. Why I Incarnate. For the protection of the virtuous, for the destruction of the evildoers, and for establishing righteousness on a firm footing, I incarnate from age to age. Whenever Ashanti or disharmony overwhelms the world, the Lord will incarnate in human form to establish the modes of earning prashanti or peace, and to re-educate the human community in the paths of peace. At the present time,
Sai Ram, sorry for the interruption. Sir, we are not able to see your slides. Can you please share them?
Okay, let me try this again. Hold on just a minute, please.
So there is a share link at the bottom at the left corner.
Yes.
Hello. Sai Ram.
Can you see now? Sairam?
Yes, Sairam. Yes, now it is visible. Yes, now it is visible.
Okay. So let me go back to the beginning, perhaps, if you don't mind. Just a
Yes,
minute.
I think you should do that. That will be very kind of you, sir.
So this is a picture that was taken in 1918, and my grandfather is shown in the middle. The elderly couple is a great grandfather, Brahmashri Lakshmi Narayana Dikshit Garu, had 8 daughters but no sons to carry on the Ayurvedic responsibilities. He knew the 4 Vedas, Vedartha, and the 6 Shastras, and was a realized yogi. He performed the Putra Kameshti Yaga, and the son was born in 1896. That is my grandfather, and the young man is my grandfather. This picture was taken in 1918. And this is the Gayatri, Sai Gayatri mantra that was revealed to him in Christmas Eve, 1977. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Sathya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarvah Prachodayat. And we'll begin the talk again. I'm sorry for the issues. This talk is from the birthday in November of 1968. Why I incarnate: for the protection of the virtuous, for the destruction of the evildoers, and for establishing righteousness on a firm footing. I incarnate from age to age. Whenever Ashanti or disharmony overwhelms the world, the Lord will incarnate in human form to establish the modes of earning prashanti or peace, and to re-educate the human community in the paths of peace. At the present time, strife and discord have robbed peace and unity from the family, the school, the society, the religions, the cities, and the state. The arrival of the Lord is also anxiously awaited by saints and sages. Sadhus prayed, and I have come. My main tasks are fostering of the Vedas, Hindu scriptures, and fostering of the devotees. These are the main tasks of the Sri Sathya Sai Avatar. Your virtue, your self-control, your detachment, your faith, your steadfastness, these are the signs by which people read my glory. You can lay claim to be a devotee only when you have placed yourself in my hands fully and completely, with no trace of ego. You can enjoy the bliss through the experience the avatar confirms. The avatar behaves in a human way so that mankind can feel kinship, but rises into a superhuman heights so that mankind can feel kinship and reach the heights, his heights, and through aspiration actually reach him. Realizing the Lord within you as the motivator is the task for which he comes in human form. Now this, as I had mentioned earlier, these are all quotations from Bhagawan's discourses or books. This was the Sathya Sai Vahini. The Veda is the mother of all Shastras. The Veda emanated from God himself as inhalation and exhalation. The great sages were the embodiments of the treasure gained by long ascetic practices, received Veda as a series of sounds. They heard it and spread it over the world by word of mouth, from preceptor to pupil. Since it was heard and preserved by generations, Veda is known as Shruti, that which was heard or listened to. The Veda is endless. Who composed the Vedas? Until today, it has not been possible to unveil their names. Those who recited it had perhaps no desire to earn renown, for the names are nowhere mentioned in the Vedas. So they were selfless in their service to humanity. The word Veda originated from the word vid, meaning to know. Vidanatu anena iti Veda. That which reveals and makes clear all knowledge is Veda. The Veda can be mastered neither by limited intellect or by limited experience. You must have broadened intellect and a lot of experience in order to really master the Vedas. The sacred Veda instructs all that one requires for spiritual advancement. It instructs one with the means and methods to overcome all sorrows and grief. If one has understood correctly the beginning of the Veda or its end, but that is only through considerable practice, learning, and experience. No one has correctly understood the beginning of the Veda or its end. There are very few. So it is hailed as Anadi, beginningless, and Sanatana, eternal. Since the first and the last of the Veda are not known, it is Nitya, everlasting. The intelligence of humans is tainted, but since the Veda has no trace of taint, it is concluded that it cannot be a human product. So the Veda is also characterized as apurishaya, non-personal. The Veda is its own authority. In other words, all these sayings of the Lord from his breath have a life of their own as the Veda. Those who have faith in Veda and its authority can personally experience this. Their validity and value can be recognized not only in India, but by people of all lands. The Vedas lay down basic truths, it can be asserted. The Vedic religion originated, we do not know when. Others came later. This is the difference between the religions. So if the absolute has to be known, it is not possible to succeed with the help of the skill and strength that man has, because it's limited. Human intelligence can operate only within certain limits, but the Veda is beyond the reach of intelligence. The Vedas are eternal truths. They existed even before the people of this land discovered, practiced, and experienced them. Just as Western philosophers or physicists announced the existence of gravitation after their experiments, the ancients of this land demonstrated the innate authenticity of the Vedas through their own experience. So this is not only just word of mouth, but also experience. So too, the Veda is truth, not merely for Bharat, but for all people on earth. It is not correct to claim that Bharat or India is the birthplace of the Vedas. The utmost that can be said is that they were discovered by the people of Bharat. The Vedas were drawn towards the hearts of the sages of this land very intimately. This karma bhumi, this yoga bhumi, and this tyaga bhumi of Bharat. Other lands pursued bhoga, and so their atmosphere was overcharged with worldly aspirations and achievements. Since in India, the spiritual quest was sincerely pursued along with material objectives. In other words, not just spiritual, but also material objectives. People here had the good fortune of Vedamata, Mother Veda's incarnation in Bharat. If a person desires to understand clearly the sacred books and scriptural texts of India to imbibe their message, he must learn the Sanskrit language. He cannot avoid that responsibility and that duty. The very mention of Sanskrit immediately arouses in some a prejudicial attitude. It is the dead language of a dying culture, they say. It is boosted by the fanatic attachment of antiquated conservatives. Contemporary moderns claim. They condemn the language as surviving only in meaningless formula, in fast vanishing rituals and ceremonies, in wedding rites and other futile exercises, they say. It is very difficult language to learn, it is said. These banal opinions and false attitudes have to be exorcised from the minds of men. Sanskrit is an immortal language. Its voice is eternal. Its call is through the century. It has embedded in it the basic sustenance from all the languages of the world. Revere Sanskrit as the mother of languages. Do not ignore its greatness or talk disparagingly about it. When you yearn to slake the thirst, the nectar offered by the Vedas, you must learn Sanskrit. In order to interpret the Vedas and elaborate their inner meanings and mysteries, the sages have left behind textbooks of complementary sciences like grammar, poetics, philosophy, and astrology. Their researches and books range over many fields of knowledge like astronomy, geography, jurisprudence, ethics, epistemology, music, psychology, and rhetoric. The Veda is the mother of Bharat, but the children do not revere the mother anymore. They revere the stepmother and believe in her. This is the result of the anglicized education system, which should be changed. So this one is from the discourse of 68, from 1968 again. Embodiments of divine love. The Vedas are the recordings of sages to whom the mantras were revealed. They proclaim the transcendental truth, which is not changed by time or place. They indicate the means to prosperity and security for the denizens of the three worlds. The Veda is derived from the root vid, which means to know. The Veda teaches how to achieve purity of heart, getting rid of impurities. The Vedas have been declared to be infinite and hence beyond the comprehension of common people. In the beginning, there was only one Veda. To study it, considerable time and effort were needed. It was massive. Veda Vyasa divided it into different parts to enable people to study as well as practice the teachings of the Veda. Out of the countless number of hymns, Vyasa gathered some riks and compiled them into the Rig Veda, collected some yajus to form the Yajur Veda, and some samans to make up the Sama Veda. So Veda Vyasa partitioned the one Veda into these four. The Rig Veda is mainly devoted to hymns in praise of various deities. The Yajur Veda consists of mantras for worshipping the deities. The mantras of the Yajur Veda are used in the performance of yagas and yajnas and in doing acts of charity. Each Veda has three sections: Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. The purpose of Vedic mantras. The Vedic mantras were utilized in yagas and yajnas, ritual sacrifices, for promoting the well-being of society and the world. They were intended to secure timely rains so that the crops may be good and there may be prosperity all around. The mantras, which form part of the karma kanda, the path of rituals, were regarded as conducive to the promotion of well-being and happiness. The Yajur Veda is devoted entirely to worship of the deity. It consists of two divisions, Krishna Yajur Veda and Shukla Yajur Veda, which are based on the two traditional distinctions. Shukla Yajur Veda belongs to the Brahma Sampradaya, Brahmic tradition, and the Krishna Yajur Veda to the Aditya Sampradaya. Adherents of the Shukla Yajur Veda are largely confined to North India, while Krishna Yajur Veda has its adherents mainly in South India. The Vedas developed under 9 heads: Shruti, Anuswara, Trayi, Amnyayam, Samanyam, Chandas, Swadhyaya, Gama, and ãgama. Shruti refers to the process of learning the Vedas from a preceptor by practicing the precise meaning, manner of chanting, and thereby acquiring proficiency in the recitation of the Vedas. The sounds have to be reproduced exactly as taught by the preceptor by listening to him with intense earnestness and concentration. The Vedic mantras are thus learned entirely by listening. And it is very important that because those are vibrations that give rise to various characteristics. Sacred Vedic mantras. Anuswara refers to the practice of repeating the mantras learned from the preceptor, contemplating on them, and preserving them in their purity by constant recitation. So only practice makes one perfect. Trayi, originally only 3 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, and Sama Vedas, were considered Apurishaya, without a human origin, that is, emanating from the divine. The Atharvana Veda comprises hymns taken from the Yajur Veda. Because of their divine origin, the first 3 Vedas were called Trayi, the triad. Amnyaya refers to constant complementation of the root syllable na. Acquiring knowledge of the Vedas by this practice has been described as Amnaya and Samnaya. One meaning of Chandas is that it is knowledge which should be guarded in secret and propagated with care. The Vedas are also described as chandas. The entire Samaveda consists of chandas. Swadhyayam refers to the process by which the Vedas have come down from generation to generation, through father to son, in genealogical succession, one after another for thousands of years. Acquisition of Vedic knowledge was not through books. It was transmitted from preceptor to disciple over the years. It is because this knowledge was handed down directly from preceptor to pupil, it has been described as Swadhyaya. Gama and ãgama are the names given to the inhaling and exhaling of the Lord's breath, which were the origin of the Vedas. All in all, the Vedas present emanations from the breath of the Lord. Neglect of Vedas is the cause for the spiritual decline of Bharat. Each of the Vedas had several shakhas, branches, upashakhas, sub-branches. Out of the 20 branches and 21 sub-branches of the Rig Veda, only 3 have survived today. Likewise, out of 96 branches of Yajurveda, only 2 have survived the ravages of time. Samaveda, which had 1,000 branches, retains today only 3 branches. If so much of spiritual treasure is contained in the few remaining branches of the Vedas that have survived, how much greater would have been the spiritual heritage of the Bharatiyas if the Vedas had survived in their entirety. As an aside, it is 5,500 years ago, approximately, that was when this division occurred. So all the Vedas were known at that time. This is why at that time that they had such great things, like the astras that were used in the war or in the battle. All of these were lost afterwards, perhaps for the good, but they are lost. But what is still there, it has so much knowledge, and neglect is the cause for the spiritual decline of Bharat. It is because of the neglect of the Vedas that the spiritual and scientific knowledge of Bharatiyas experienced a steady decline. As a consequence, they developed a narrow outlook. Broadness of vision suffered an eclipse. Today, the numbers of those who have no love or respect for the Vedas are on the increase. Even among Brahmins, interest and concern for the Vedas have declined. As an aside on this one, after independence, then for a while the system was still kept intact, but very quickly the politicians took over the temples, and support of the Vedic traditions declined considerably after that. So the state having control of the temples, that was a big issue for the decline also. Who are Brahmins? Brahman means the embodiment of mantra. Brahman. Only those who are constantly reciting the mantras embodying the Brahman were called Brahmins. Those who do not can no longer call themselves that. Today, Brahmins have forgotten these mantras. Owing to the impact of modern education, the greed for money, and the growth of narrow-minded interests, they have forgotten their inherent divinity. As a consequence, peace and security have become casualties. What is meant by Veda? One meaning is iruka, awareness. Another is telivi, intelligence. A third meaning is viveka, discrimination. All those who wish to develop discrimination should be deeply interested in the Vedas. Today, intelligence is being developed and used only for acquiring positions and possessions, for securing comforts and conveniences, and not for developing good qualities and becoming good men engaged in godly pursuits. In other words, we're misusing the intelligence and using it only for petty gains. All their intellectual abilities are being misused for trivial purposes. The universal outlook of the Vedas. The Vedas have emphasized that man will be truly human only when he lives up to human values and practices the good life. Many who chant the Vedas these days have difficulty in understanding their purport. When they fully understand the meaning and chant the mantras, they will derive great joy. Only then will they experience the full sacredness and potency of the Vedas. So when we go to a Padashala, the children there who are learning the Vedas, they should be encouraged and should be happy, because this is a great honor to learn and to recite and to know the meaning of the Vedas. The Vedas have a universal outlook, embracing all that is noble and sacred. They have taught the principle of samatva, equality in respect of everything. They have proclaimed the concept of oneness. They taught men to face joy and sorrow with equal serenity. Those who utter the mantras today do not grasp their inner meaning. Even if the full meaning of a single mantra is understood, it will be sufficient. Every day, the Shanti mantra is recited. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Namadhitamastu Mavidvi Shavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. What does this signify? Let us move together in unison. Let us live in harmony, in communion with each other. What a wide vision is present in this mantra. So this is not something to be restricted from people. Everyone has a right to this heritage of the Vedic tradition. Even such broad-minded mantras have been interpreted in a narrow sense in later years. Hence, you do not find even today 1,000th of the sense of equality and amity which prevailed in those times. It is because men's attitudes and feelings have declined below the human level that so many divisive forces have cropped up. So in this Kali age, that has been accelerating, and that is why the avatar came in this Kali age to revive the Vedas, Veda Poshana, to support and revive the Vedas. Significance of yajnas. 33 deities are mentioned in the Rig Veda. Of them, the sun god is the most important deity. His power is felt all over the world. In this yajna, the sun is called Ritvik. His other names are Hota and Brahma. It is the sun god who carries to the deities concerned the offerings made in the yajna. Agni, the god of fire, is an image of the sun. Agni has a form of his own. Agni has parents. This morning before the yajna began, 2 priests churned 2 aranis, sticks, to produce fire for the yajna. The fire god is said to have consumed his parents immediately after his birth. The lower arani is the mother and the stick on the top is father. The fire produced by churning them burns away the sticks. The flames arising from the fire are the tongues of the fire god. The rays coming from the fire are so many heads of the deity. The Agni principle is immanent in every person. The inner significance of this is that every person is inherently divine. When the mantras are chanted and offerings are made in the fire to the Lord, the grace of the Lord is showered on the people in the form of peace and plenty. There's a saying, as is the fire, so is the smoke. As is the smoke, so are the clouds. As are the clouds, so is the rain. As is the rain, so are the crops. As are the crops, so is the food. As is the food, so is the intellect. As clouds, these days are not formed by the smoke coming from the yajnas, the food consumed by the people is not conducive to the growth of intelligence. Previously, everyone all over Bharat did this. Did these yajnas, and this is for the benefit of the entire world. When the smoke going up from the yajna kunda enters the clouds, you have sacred rain, which helps to purify the crops and sanctify the food that is consumed. As a result, the people are also sanctified. As I had mentioned earlier, excuse me, my great-grandfather, because he didn't have a boy to carry on the heritage, he performed the Putra Kameshti Yaga. The Yaga for children. And as a result, my grandfather was born. The result of that Putrakameshti Yaga extends down to the generations. The benefits go to generations before and to generations afterwards. So that yajna or yaga was performed also by Dashratha, and with it the divine beings, the avatars, Rama and his brothers were born. So the power of the yajna, we're not aware of it because we have been taught otherwise. So we must go back and relearn everything over again. If we've been English educated, we have to learn the true education of the history of Bharat. The bliss derived from sacrifice. But today, if people are filled with bad thoughts and evil intentions, it is because these sacred yajnas and yagas are not performed. Many persons ask in a carping spirit, of what use is the expending of so much ghee and other materials as offerings in the fire of the yajnas and yagas? The purpose will be clear only to those in the know of the inner truth. A farmer tills his field and scatters over it a bag of paddy seeds. To the ignorant observer, this may appear to be a waste of precious grain. But the farmer knows that in due course he will reap a harvest of 100 bags of paddy from the one bag. Likewise, the offering of ghee and other precious things in the yajna with mantras will result in countless benefits in good time. People may only notice what's being offered, but they have no idea of the benefits that will follow. It should be realized that only today's tyaga, sacrifice, can lead to tomorrow's bhoga or enjoyment. When the sacrifice is made with a full heart, the returns will also be equally abundant. Unfortunately, man today does not even dream of making any sacrifice. When a pretense of sacrifice is made, it is only a concession to fashion. Very few have any idea of what real sacrifice is. As a consequence, the wealthy, in spite of their riches, have neither peace nor security. The affluent do not care to give a little food to the destitute at their gate. But these misers drop a bag full of money in the hundi in a temple. These foolish persons fail to see the divinity in fellow human beings and make offerings to an inanimate object. Do not bargain with the Lord. Does God, who is the source of all wealth, need your petty offerings? No. You must use your wealth for righteous purposes. Help the indigent and the needy. Service, service, service. There is a selfish motive even in making offerings to the deities. Something small is offered in expectation of a big return from the deity. A man prays to the Lord, "Oh Lord, if I win 10 lakhs of rupees in a lottery, I shall offer 10,000 rupees to you in the hundi." What kind of bargain is this? It is a pity that such silly ideas are rampant today. The reason is people have forgotten the secret of the Vedas and their culture and tradition. They offer a molehill and crave for a mountain. This is a complete character of devotion. It is such pseudo-devotees who are on the increase today. They are all the time seeking to enter into petty deals with the divine. Every prayer, every sadhana is replete with selfishness and self-interest. Everyone seeks benefits, but is not prepared to make any sacrifice. What is the sacrifice that is to be made to God? First of all, your bad qualities. Shed your bad qualities, acquire good qualities. Shed your narrow outlook and cultivate a broad vision. Today, the foremost need is to develop the spirit of sacrifice. You're not expected to give away all your wealth and possessions. What is required is a sense of compassion at the sight of a suffering human being. When the heart melts, that itself becomes a sacrifice. What we witness today is not the melting of hearts, but their hardening. You will not carry your wealth with you when you leave the world. Everything is left behind. Even while life remains, render help to those who need as much as you can. The quintessence of the Vedas is the glorification of sacrifice as the supreme virtue. Of what avail is all your study and listening? There's no change in the way you live, and you do not understand your true nature. The highest knowledge is understanding the value of sacrifice. It is a source of limitless joy. It leads to immortality. So there's an example that Swami quotes of how Karna, even on his deathbed, broke his teeth off with golden fillings to give to a Brahmin who had come and asked him at that moment for something. So he was ready to sacrifice everything. Unfortunately, he went along the path of Duryodhana. And so his friendship with Duryodhana is what sank him. He was a great giver, dana karna, but why not? And he made a great sacrifices all his life, all to be lost because of his following the path of unrighteousness. So the greatest means to realize the divine, the lesson to be learned from the performance of yajnas is that sacrifice is the greatest means to realize the divine. The essential meaning of the Veda is that to secure enduring bliss, the spirit of sacrifice has to be cultivated. The significance of yaga has to be understood, and we must lead a godly life. The Vedas have been mainly concerned with the pravritti marga, the path of action, all the different branches of knowledge, physics, chemistry, botany, economics, music, etc., are covered by the Vedas. These are concerned with the external world. Hence, the Vedas have been considered dualistic. How to live in the world. Those are the Vedas. Only the Upanishads have taught the nivritti marga, the path of knowledge, by going within oneself. This means that of the four purusharthas, the four main goals of man, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, the Vedas have been concerned only with the first three. Moksha, that's also important. The Upanishads declared that the nature of the Supreme can be grasped only by the path of knowledge. Knowledge is of two kinds, paravidya and aparavidya. The higher knowledge and the lower knowledge. All that is learned by the educational process today falls into the category of aparavidya, lower knowledge. Knowledge relating to dharma, artha, and kama comes into this category. Only knowledge related to moksha, liberation, constitutes paravidya. The supreme, we have to acquire that paravidya. That knowledge is found in Vedanta. The Upanishads come at the end of the Vedas. The essence of all the Vedas is to be found in them with the goal of moksha. In this lifetime, it can be achieved, according to Swami, if we follow him. While Veda is dualistic, Vedanta is Advaita, non-dualistic. Non-dualism is the means to experience ananda, bliss. The ego, I principle, is predominant in the Vedas. Vedanta has declared that the elimination of ego, I and mine alone can reach realization. The I has to be rooted out. As long as you adhere to the I, you are bound to the phenomenal world. You cannot attain the higher knowledge. You have, therefore, to understand the distinction between the Vedas and the Upanishads. It is only when you understand the essence of the Vedas as expounded in the Upanishads and put into practice the message of the Vedanta, you will realize the true meaning of Advaita, non-dualism. And this has been, these are the quotes from Swami's discourses. So I will stop sharing at this point. I'm back. I can see on the control panel. So please go ahead if there are any questions or comments.
So prior to the questions, Sai Ram sir, we are extremely thankful to you for your precious time and sharing this wonderful wealth of knowledge that you have gained. We're extremely thankful to you. We pray to Bhagawan to immensely bless you and your family. So we are very thankful to you. In your wonderful talk, you have reminded us of various things. To mention a few, you started off in a typical Vedic culture, that it is an Indian typical Vedic culture. We start with respect and to our parents. You started off very nicely portraying the Indian culture, the way of respecting not only just your father, great grandfather. And you reminded us the wonderful boon that Vedas have given us in various forms. For instance, you reminded us about if you believe in Putra Kameshti Yaga and if you perform it, you will have your blessings. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. You started with that note. If you believe and do that, that will happen. And you gave an instance of a proof the way your great grandfather was blessed with Sri Ghandikota Subramanya Shastri Garu. You mentioned in your talk that Bhagawan has come down, and you reminded us the important words of Bhagawan, that he has come down for fostering Vedas and fostering devotees, which he has mentioned in his speech way back in 1968. You also very neatly reminded us about the various messages that Bhagavan has left for us through Sathya Sai Vahini, that what is Veda, it's important. And Bhagavan also has given some characterization of Vedas that you have very nicely mentioned it as the characterization as mentioned by Bhagavan. One of the very important points that you have mentioned, you have highlighted is Buddhi Grahyam Atindriyam. Vedas are beyond our intellectual capabilities. The way it has been portrayed and explained by Bhagavan, you reminded us on this very important fact. You also emphasized on the importance of Sanskrit being mother of all languages and why Vedas are very well written in this Daiva Bhasha. You have also reminded us that Vedas have gifted us with all knowledge that we are enjoying today in any form, whether it is science and technology, grammar, astronomy, ethics, music, psychology, mention whatever it is all gifts of Veda that you have mentioned it. You have also mentioned how the Vedas have been divided by Vedavyasa, the division, the content, the focus, the code of conduct to be followed while learning Vedas, while teaching Vedas, and while preserving Vedas the way the ancient world has preserved it. You have highlighted it and reminded us on that. One very important, yet another important message that you have given us is importance of gama, ãgama, which you repeatedly emphasized. It is inhale and exhale of Lord's breath, that is verily Veda. Veda is verily gama, ãgama, which is the inhale and exhale of Lord's breath. And you have very rightly, at the right juncture, reminded us the reason for the decline, either in the spiritual or any aspect, is neglect of Vedas. That is why Bhagavan has come down to foster Vedas and the foster devotees. Then the consequences of such a neglect in the form of narrow outlook and various other bad things which are getting accumulated, that you have very neatly emphasized on this aspect. And you have also given that you need to, what are some of the causes for such a neglect? Maybe modern education in a way is, you should not get narrowed down, you should take the benefits, you should not get narrowed down, but you should take the benefit and broaden. Maybe that has not happened. That's what you have highlighted. And the greed, you have also emphasized, these are all the few things which are responsible for the neglect, forgetting our own treasures and wealth. Sir, you have also emphasized on the essence of Shanti Mantra, Sahana Bhavatu, the importance of it, and link this mantra for the universal outlook. Thank you very much for once again reminding us on this powerful Shanti Mantra, which we have all heard several times. The mantra and its meaning not only need to be, we don't only have to chant mantra, but it will be very good to know the essence. So Gnatum, Drastum, Pravestum, this yet another message which Bhagawan has told us several times. You emphasized it again on this. Thanks for that. So a very, very nice way. And I would say that the way, the importance of Yagna, Agni, the way you portrayed it, you said, in Bhagawan's words, you have reminded us, the fire leads, sacred fire leads to sacred smoke to the sacred clouds, clouds to rains, rains to food, and food to intellect. So you linked it, you reminded us on this. Sir, here I am reminded of this. You are given, in fact, a very nice scientific approach to how to get the sacred food, and why we fail to understand it becomes a big enigma. But here your point, just to remind, add to your point, I would like to say, our government in particular has been facing this smog problem in India and New Delhi. The reason for that was again a fire in Punjab. The fields were under fire, and that led to the smog and the bad rains and acid rains. They believe in it and they don't believe in yagnas. So you remind us how narrow-minded the education has made us. You have given an ample proof for that in your talk. Thank you very much for highlighting and linking these facts in a very scientific and very nice way that you have given us. So that you have also said that correct the selfish attitude. Do not offer a mole and ask for an anthill. So this is always a message that we receive from Vedas, and thanks for reminding us on such powerful messages. And you have also reminded us on Bhagawan's words. Tell me your company, I'll tell you what you are. So he said, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, that you have very nicely again reminded us. This is a message from Vedas that you reminded us on this. Finally, you gave the importance of Upanishad and how we can learn a lot of messages of Vedas through Upanishads. So thank you very much for nicely summarizing the wealth of knowledge that you have learned over several years. And we are immensely thankful on behalf of all the participants, on behalf of the organization and all the organizers of Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Sriti Shreni and Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. I thank you once again and pray to Bhagawan to immensely bless you and your family, and we look forward for yet another opportunity to hear you. So now I hand it over to Sri Subramanya Gorti Garu. If there are any questions, probably it will be posted or he will highlight them, and you may kindly take them. Thank you very much once again, sir. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Thank you very much.
Sai Ram, yes, sir. There is one question from Mrs. Kalyani Sundararajan. Please share one or two personal experiences that you had with Swami.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm very grateful for your summary and all of the quick summarization of all of these. These are all Swami's words that are in his discourses, thousands of discourses and books that he has done for 60, 70 years. He's been saying all this to us, and he's the avatar who's holding our hand and taking us on the path of moksha. We just have to follow him, basically. And I'm very grateful to him for all the blessings and opportunities that he has given me, and through the family, what he has given, so that I can proceed in whatever way I can towards that moksha that we all aspire for. So he always tells us, do everything you can good in this world, but aim for moksha. And he had granted that to my grandfather. He told us in his interviews to the family that he had granted liberation to Tatagaru, grandfather, and he had granted liberation to father, because he had followed his path and he had done his duty to his father, because he took retirement from the UN, early retirement, so that he could take care of grandfather in his 90s. So because of that one deed, he said, he has given him moksha. So we have to do our duty. This is the basic lesson that we have, is to do the duty, be compassionate, show compassion in your heart, and that will pull you up. And then there's, essentially, I'm very thankful for you for the summary. Now, one of the incidents that I can bring up is that, I was born in Eragavaram, which is a village near Tanuku in West Godavari district, 20 miles from Rajahmundry. And basically, I was born in a Veda Padashala myself. That was my maternal grandfather's house that I was born in was a Veda Pathashala. And so the vibrations of the Vedas, chanting by the gurus and the shishyas, these are powerful instruments of change that can happen, and that can, because of those vibrations, awareness is raised. So I left at the age of 4, and then we came to the United States, lived here for many years, also spent some time in different places of the world. And all through this, it is the link with that Vedic tradition that my parents carried forward that helped us to keep and maintain the culture and traditions of Bharat, of Andhra, Telugus. So a little bit of Telugu I learned, etc. So it is very important for people to carry this on wherever they go. It is so easy to drop it, to change it, and then the heritage of thousands of years, of generations of your ancestors is just thrown away. No, we should be, no, each of us is like a flower in the garden of the Lord. We have to be, we have to have various flowers, roses, this type of flower, other types of flowers. We should all carry on our traditions because that's what we have been given as a heritage. So one of the things that I was very thankful to Swami for was we got married in for 3-4 years we were trying to have children, and it didn't succeed. So we went to a infertility clinic in New York City, one of the best in the world, and they told us that we had only 1 chance in 3 of having children after microsurgery, 1 chance in 3. And essentially I had smallpox when I was young. I was only in India for 4 years, but at the age of 2.5, I got smallpox, typhoid, double pneumonia. I broke my collarbone in the hospital. So 1 year of struggle, but then I survived all that by Swami's grace and the prayers of the family. And but one of the effects was this, that so then in 1977, my parents went to India on home leave, but because I had some health issues, I couldn't go, and I was also working. So when they went to Swami, my wife had also gone with them. I couldn't go, as I said. But Swami, my mother was about to tell Swami of the difficulties that we were having. But then Swami interrupted her at the first word and said, yes, 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 I know. But don't worry, I will take care of it. They will have children. So this was in 1977, during the interview that we had when grandfather, for the first time, Christmas Eve, when he chanted the Sai Gayatri. So that is a very significant date, Christmas Eve of 1977, when a number of things happened. My brother, who had ileitis, or inflammation of the small intestine, he had a chronic problem that was cured by Swami with vibhuti he gave at that interview. He also sent some vibhuti for me because I had colitis. And this is one of the reasons why I had to take off a lot of time at work. And that's why I couldn't go with them on the trip. So that vibhuti that was sent cured me of colitis. So 2 medical miracles. And then he assured us that we would have children. Then 77, that was 77. Then we went, every 2 years we used to go to India. And whenever we came to Patti, he would tell us, yes, yes, don't worry, you will have children. And he gave us many interviews over the years, each time we went. And then finally, in 1987, my wife and I went to India, and he gave us 2 interviews in Patti. Then we had to leave. And then he had gone to Bangalore then, after we had left Patti, he had gone to Bangalore. Swami had gone and he had taken father with him. So he called, so my father told me, we were staying in the hotel, Swami is here in Bangalore, you can see him again. Immediately check out of the hotel and come to the ashram, Vrindavan. So we went there, and Swami gave us another interview, and then he gave us a talk on Gayatri at that time. Now, my Upanayam was done in 1963 by Swami in Puttaparthi, 1963. So here he gave a talk on Gayatri for half an hour, 45 minutes. This is in Vrindavan, in the interview room in Trai Vrindavan. And then he said, now you will have children. So it took 10 years. We had to do some tapas in order to earn that child. And of course, the fact that the Putra Kameshti Yaga was also done, that also had its effect. So Swami gave this blessing, and then we shortly 1 year later we had our first son, and Swami gave the name Jayavardhan. And then after that we had Aryavardhan, also given by Swami. And then he said in one of our interviews after we had the two boys, then he said you have to do Kanyadanam, and this Kanyadanam meant that we had to have a girl. So from no children, we had 2 boys and a girl named by Swami. So this is one of the great miracles, because no matter what you can do, there's a limit, but there's no limit with Swami. Later on, I found out. I mean, I had at some point I had asked for the horoscope. There was my father's friend was a nuclear physicist. He was also an astrologer, an Indian, Telugu, and I had asked him, how many children do you think I will have, jokingly, after I'd gotten married? And he didn't say anything. He just smiled and sort of avoided the question, and I didn't follow it. It turns out that I was not supposed to have any children. Then my wife's horoscope, their parents had brought that had 3 children in it. So here we have the situation where I have no children according to astrology, and my wife was supposed to have 3. And so Swami changed everything. He turned everything, and so that whatever was needed, he gave that. And that is a great blessing and boon. So that's number 1 experience. Number 2, I'm a simulation systems engineer at the time, and I worked in a computer company in New Jersey, and I was sent to Japan to teach at the Japan Institute of Defense, and for 3 weeks. During that time, my wife also came. We were able to see parts of Japan. But then I decided to go, but she had to leave after 2 weeks. So on one weekend, I figured, let me try to go and climb Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is 12,500 feet. It's a volcano, but dormant volcano. So then I got there at 11 o'clock in the morning. I've taken a train from Tokyo, and I started climbing. I thought it would take five hours to go up and down. However, it took 5 hours just to go to the top. And I was it started out at 85 degrees below. And then when you reach nearer the top, the temperature dropped to 40 degrees. So here I was totally unprepared. I thought it was only 5 hours to go up and down. It was actually, it took me double that. And by 5 o'clock in the evening, it was getting dark. It got to 40 degrees. And I was thinking, I was totally unprepared. I went just in a shirt sleeve like this. I had no coat, no sweater, and I was carrying a heavy camera bag. And I was wondering and then I was thinking, Swami, what can I do? It's an intractable position. I mean, so then as I was thinking like this, as I was thinking of Swami, then immediately there was a group of liquor salesmen. Only one person knew English. And so they were asking me questions. I asked them a few questions while we were climbing up. So I made friends with these people. And out of the blue, one of them gave me a sweater, gave me his spare sweater. He had a coat and he had a sweater. So without asking, he gave that as I was thinking of Swami and asking him, what can I do? Here is a situation where you're on a mountain at 12,500 feet and it's cold. And to climb down will take another 5 hours. It's dark. I had no torch, no flashlight. So I was stuck. And there was no way out of it other than a miracle. And this young Japanese gentleman, he gave me a sweater. And they also booked a room at the top of the inn, where there's a small inn. That room they had booked 1 year in advance. And they were a group of 12 people. So they booked one room there. There are very few rooms, only 5 or 6 rooms there. And so they invited me to stay with them unasked. So my problem, intractable problem, was solved by Swami without me asking. I said, Swami, what am I to do now? So when you put your faith in Swami and you put your problem and give them to him, he solves it. So this is another incidence of a miracle to me that saved me from much anguish. Any other question?
Thank you very much. Yes. Subramaniam Garu will just come up with if there are any questions.
Yes, there is one question from Ms. Sarmishta Lahiri. Though the vast knowledge of Veda is beyond the limited capabilities of human beings, how do it help us to be a good person in our day-to-day life?
Well, we have Swami who has come down for Veda Poshana. Now, the Veda Poshana is not for everyone. For instance, we have seen how hundreds of thousands of people used to study and chant and learn all over India. In every village, there were a few. Now there are only a handful in states. For instance, in Iragavaram, which had 200 Vedic Pandits, when I was born, that little town had 200 Vedic Pandits. Now there are perhaps a dozen. So this is what has happened all over Bharat. So my father used to arrange, Ghandikota Subbarao Garu, he used to arrange a Veda conferences at Swami's initiative. And these Veda Sabhas, there were declining numbers of Pandits arriving because of the collapse of the Vedic system. The whole system was dependent on the donations from people, temples operating in a very liberal way, liberal in the sense that they always had lectures, talks, Veda Padashalas, and they had functions being done, and all of these were being supported. When the government took over these temples, those were which had been given money and land for hundreds of years, perhaps thousands of years. This was all running, even after the invasions from abroad. Even though in northern parts of India there was much destruction, in southern parts there were still these temples operating. This is how everything was running smoothly until independence. So then it became difficult for people to learn anymore. So that's so Swami has given one thing, and that is chant the Gayatri mantra, Veda Mata Gayatri. Just chant the one Gayatri mantra. That will give solace to everyone. There's no need for everyone to follow the Vedic path. Now, it is still important for some people to follow that Vedic tradition and uphold and maintain the Vedas. So Swami has given an opportunity in Puttaparthi for Veda Padashala. He has given the students the opportunity to learn at least a portion of the Veda, and that's why we have to follow that tradition. But chant the Gayatri constantly, 3 times a day, 3 times in the morning, noon, and evening, 3 times. That itself is sufficient. Chant the Sai Gayatri along with it. That is what Swami would like. Thank you for this opportunity.
Sai Ram, sir.
Sai Ram.
Any more questions, Subramaniam Garu?
Sai Ram, sir. No more questions. We can.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir, thank you once again on behalf of all the participants, on behalf of all the organization members. So thank you very much once again. We pray Bhagawan to immensely bless you and your family. Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshak Bhakta Jana Samrakshak Pati Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashi Vadana Shri पिता गुरुदैवमु मरि अंतयु नीवे स्वामी मरि अंतयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नागेन्द्राशयना ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी हो साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको मंत्र गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई